Welcome, everyone. I'm David Bottlorf, Executive Director of the Association of Indiana Counties, and we're very fortunate to have with us today Justice Christopher Goff, who was appointed to the Indiana Supreme Court by Governor Holcomb and took the office as Indiana's 110th Justice on July 24th, 2017. He was retained by voters in 2020. He's originally from Wabash, Indiana, graduate of Ball State University, and received his law degree from IU's Maurer School of Law. He served as Huntington County Public Defender for 2 years. Then he returned to Wabash to private practice, and he was elected Superior Court Judge and served for 12 years in Wabash County. During his time as a Wabash County Judge, he established the Wabash County Drug Court, Wabash County Family Recovery Court, and Wabash County Reentry Court. After becoming Supreme Court Justice, he was appointed to serve as chair of the Indiana Justice Reinvestment Advisory Council. So I want to thank Justice Goff for joining us today.
David, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks. I've been fortunate to be able to participate in some of the JRAC meetings, and the communication we've had amongst, we call the justice partners the last year or two or even more has been fantastic. I think that improved communication has really helped the criminal justice system. When you were a Wabash County judge, how did you work with your council and commissioners on especially fiscal issues, budgetary issues, because that's so critical to have that good relationship?
No, I couldn't agree more. And David, I had the good fortune of serving in a small town, and so kind of funny, I actually had a good relationship with our county commissioners, one in particular named Scotty Gibbons, who owned an auto repair shop in Wabash. And so at least every 3,000 miles, I'd go to his business, and he'd give me a ride back to the courthouse, and we'd discuss all things criminal justice system. And I found that helpful. But, in terms of the fiscal burden that the criminal justice system puts on every county, we had a very good relationship with our county council. And I attribute that primarily to their decision to appoint a liaison member to really be in regular consultation with the courts about our work. And through those discussions, we were able to go into our budget meetings every year, really comfortable that we were on the same page.
That's great. Because as you, I'm sure, are aware, about 60 to 70% of a county's budget is really spent on criminal justice issues by the time you do the courts and the public defenders and the jail and the prosecutors and probation. So it's a huge expense, and counties are really interested in any kind of progress we can make to make the criminal justice system more effective and more efficient. And when you were a judge, I mentioned you created several specialty courts. Did that put additional burden on the county fiscally, or were those more funded through state programs?
Well, we were unique in Wabash County. I think that we were probably the first, and we were certainly among the first rural county to establish a drug court. We were the second county in Indiana to establish a family recovery court. And then later on, last year or two, I was on the trial benches when we established our reentry court. But all of those programs were created without any additional fiscal impact. It was really just a matter of reorganizing what resources we had available in the county. And then later on, when Indiana became part of really the nationwide Justice Reinvestment Initiative, is when we began to receive some outside funding. And we were really well positioned to ask the state to help give us some additional funding because of the groundwork that we did with our problem-solving courts in particular.
Yeah, that's great. And I've seen plenty of stories where those courts have really improved the quality of life of people who have to come before the court. And I think they've just been a great success. And certainly I'm an advocate for more counties adopting those specialty courts and to provide those additional services. So thanks for your leadership on that. It kind of brings me to my next topic. The court, Supreme Court and the court administration has been very active the last several years, reviewing a lot of the criminal justice aspects, everything from public defense. Of course, as you mentioned, we're part of the Justice Reinvestment Advisory Council. We had the evidence-based decision-making state team, which transformed into some local teams. There's been a review again of public defender statutes, pretrial. The court hosted the opioid summit a couple years ago. I've never seen so much review of the criminal justice system. Is there anything in particular that prompted that, or is it just the makeup of the Supreme Court at this time just wants to review the system?
Well, it's a great question, and like so much of what we deal with in our criminal justice system, the answer is kind of complicated, and it depends on the initiative. It depends on the effort. For example, with the jail overcrowding task force, we really had a legislative charge to examine what's going on with jail overcrowding. Why is this a particular issue, or what are the causes of it? And what are some solutions to some of those problems? And I appreciate your leadership and participation in that work. But with, for example, the opioid summit, that was largely due to the leadership of Chief Justice Rush and her participation in the Conference of Chief Justices. She's actually in line to become the chair of that organization, but she was tasked with becoming the co-chair of the National Judicial Opioid Task Force. And through that role, she was able to really get firsthand knowledge of and access to resources that Indiana could use to fight the problems associated with addiction and opioids in particular. And there's just so many different examples, but most of the time, my colleagues and I are really just devoted to doing what we need to do to make sure that resources are available for all of our citizens.
Right. And again, the state, not every state has the Justice Reinvestment Advisory Council, or not every state has done the evidence-based decision making. Those are two great programs, I think. But how do you think those have benefited sort of the public through the criminal justice system?
Well, when I was in Wabash, I always appreciated the fact that we were small enough that we could have a continuing conversation among all of our justice stakeholders. And that was really helpful because we were able to understand particular problems from each constituent member's perspective. And with that common understanding, we were able to really identify what we had to solve a particular problem. And then we were also able to identify what resources we might be lacking in our community. And JRAC does that. JRAC does that at the state level. It allows all the state level justice stakeholders to have a continuing conversation about items and issues that are of common concern. And our evidence-based decision-making team is really kind of an engine that drives that conversation. You're able to bring together, again, multidisciplinary stakeholders to address issues that are common to every stakeholder within the system and work towards consensus solutions. And even when we don't reach consensus, we're at least able to pinpoint and narrow down issues that communities can then discuss on an individual basis.
Yeah, and we were supportive of House Bill 1068 this session that became law and created the local JRACs. How do you envision them working together? There's not a lot of direction on exactly what their task or what they're charged with, but and I know you all have a conference coming up. The Judges Association has a conference coming up soon. But how do you think those local JRACs, what should they focus on? What should be their primary, at least initial initiative to come together and work on criminal justice issues locally?
Yeah, so, I had the opportunity to attend the bill signing, and I told Governor Holcomb that I think the local JRAC statute will do for court reform what fiber optics did for telecommunications. What it will allow us to do is to have alignment between the state and the local governments and talk about the same thing at the same time. In terms of specific initiatives, what I would ask our constituent counties to do is really have conversations about what is important in your community. Because at the state level, we really want those issues to be driving our policy. And through local JRAC, we'll be able to accumulate a more dependable and accurate set of data about what those decision points and what those issues are, so that we can really drive policy in a way that's responsive. Now, one opportunity that I would put out there, in particular, though, for local JRACs to work on, will come next fall through a statewide summit that we're going to do, and I hope in partnership with the Association of Indiana Counties, to really take a close look at the problem of serious mental illness in our court systems. And what we're really going to do through our summit is ask our counties to consider what continuum of care is available for folks with serious mental illness and co-occurring disorders in their communities, and identify gaps in that system. We have a thing that we talk about in our business called the Sequential Intercept model. And I've had an opportunity to serve on a national task force that deals with this issue of improving court and community response to serious mental illness. And what we're doing on the national task force is asking states, and in turn, the states are asking their localities to really look at this issue, this continuum of care, according to the Sequential Intercept model, in order to figure out gaps in the system and hopefully come to some consensus about common problems. So as I said, these issues are complicated, but what I think is most important about JRAC and the local JRAC partnership with our state JRAC is that it will allow us to have alignment and carry on the same conversation about the same topics.
Yeah, it's great that people are accepting mental health as part of the solution. For years, I feel like maybe even the sheriffs know that most of the people in the jail have mental health or addiction service issues. And so bringing those groups into the conversation, I think, is so critical, and is really going to improve the criminal justice system. And, timing sometimes can be great. And I think it is with the American Rescue Plan Act money. Some of that money can be used for mental health and addiction services. And same thing next year, calendar year, we expect to start receiving opioid recovery money into the state from some of the litigation. So again, I think that will be dedicated for those exact services. So I think timing wise, it's really working out well with the focus and that potential revenue coming in. So any other comments for our members?
Well, I want to thank you, David, for your partnership with the courts and with all of our justice partners. Your knowledge and your willingness to share your knowledge about so many issues, but most recently about details of the American Recovery Plan and really helping us create opportunities to make our system better. We just appreciate your partnership, and we appreciate the involvement of your constituent members in this important work for the benefit of all Hoosiers.
Well, thanks. I think the communication has done a tremendous job of improving the system already, and looking forward to more improvements over the next coming years. So thanks to the leadership of you and Justice Rush and the other Supreme Court justices, and really the court administration. I think they've done a great job of focusing on these issues, and we're all going to be a benefit from that. So.
Yes, sir.
We always like to have a few sort of fun questions at the end here. So we've been asking all of our people who've participated in these videos, what's your favorite Indiana musician or band?
Oh, it's probably got to be John Mellencamp.
Okay. That's definitely our most popular answer. State fair is going on right now, and you being running for judge in Wabash County, you probably had to attend a lot of county fairs, and maybe you still go to the state fair here. What do you have a favorite sort of state fair or county fair food?
Yeah, David, I think I've always been an elephant ear guy. Okay. That's probably my favorite.
That's good. And then favorite Indiana sport team, college or pro?
Well, if you let me, I want to cheat on that question. I have been more of a high school sports guy. My son was an all-state wide receiver 2 years at Southwood Junior Senior High School, and their coach there is a guy named Dave Snyder, who runs a little service station in a town called LaFountain. And he just did so much good for my son, but he does so much good for the boys that are participating in his program that I still follow his games regularly. And my son is now an assistant coach at DeKalb High School, and they're implementing a spread offense this year. So I really am eager to see them put up a lot of points. But those are the programs I usually follow.
Well, good. Well, And again, thank you for your time. I do want to mention that several of the issues we talked about today on criminal justice will be in our next magazine, which will be arriving soon. And so, again, thank you all for watching this video. And as always, feel free to contact us if we can ever be of assistance.